We need to focus on facts and not fear. And I think that there's been a lot that's been done to try to promote fear. We were told over and over again, Florida was going to be just like New York when it came to the coronavirus. Well, let's look at the tail of the tape. How close were we to New York? Fatalities. Obviously a much different picture. You know, we have, this is equal population per 100,000, much less. Even if you did absolute numbers, we have 2 million more people. New York far and above what Florida is. Same thing with hospitalizations. Hospitalization rate that is a mere fraction of what you see, not just in New York, but many other states. And so saying Florida was going to be like New York was wrong, and people need to know it was wrong.
Why was it wrong, too? They did say this. They claimed that because Florida has a particularly top-heavy population when it comes to age, right? You have a bulge at the top of the age bracket, although not as much as per capita Maine. I didn't know this. Interesting fact. Maine has the highest per capita senior citizen population of any state in the country. So as a percentage of overall population, not in total numbers. But Florida did not get hit nearly as badly as people were saying it would. You had flight from New York City at really at the height of spread to Florida. And so there were all these concerns that you were going to have effectively New Yorkers infecting Florida and adding to that rate of spread of the disease. And we had all these very concerning news stories coming out about this. And everyone was saying, well, Florida's not locking down fast enough or with enough urgency, so it's going to suffer this terrible fate. And then we saw what the numbers were. And Wall Street Journal pulled this together in an editorial over the weekend by Arian Campo Flores and Alex Leary. Smart or lucky, how Florida dodged the worst of coronavirus. Now, remember, we saw what this virus does when it has essentially unrestricted ability to engage in community spread and to go all over a population. We keep hearing about, we did the lockdowns. This was in America at least starting in middle of January. And most states were not really locking down until April. So you had spread and spread and spread. And we see in New York City, 1 in 4 people are believed to have been infected with this. So this had an enormous spread. Now we're going to be told, oh, no, because of the lockdowns, we prevented the catastrophe from being so much worse than it was. Well, okay, but explain Florida to me, because Florida has not suffered a catastrophe relative to other hard-hit states at all, despite having an older seniors, a lot of senior citizens in the population. Florida, according to this Wall Street Journal piece, had, quote, 6 deaths per 100,000 people as of Saturday, compared with 42 in Louisiana, 56 in Massachusetts, and 97 in New York per 100,000. So Florida has 6 per 100,000. New York has almost 100 per 100,000. That's an enormous difference for two states that both have large population, a lot of senior citizens, a lot of major urban areas. I mean, if you look at this, you say, well, hold on a second, how did we get it? But there's no interest really in looking at what Florida did right. Instead, they just wave it aside and say, oh, well, Florida, they got lucky, I guess. Really? Lucky? Maybe the fact that people in Florida have more outdoorsy lifestyles than they do in New York. Maybe the fact that the governor there allowed for high-risk areas to move more quickly, lower-risk areas of the state. He localized the response, did not do a one-size-fits-all lockdown policy, as we're told was necessary. If you want to save lives, you must do this, right? If you want to save lives. And you look at, as of Friday, for example, this is from last week, there were 1,384 residents of long-term care facilities in the state with COVID-19, or 0.9% of the total resident population. There were 388 deaths of long-term care residents. People aged 65 and up make over 20% of Florida's population. And again, the second highest proportion of anywhere after Maine. So Florida was supposed to be just like New York, just like Italy, and it didn't happen. Why? Now, there are some, as I said, lifestyle differences between the way New York City operates and the way Florida operates. But you look at northern Italy, are they all in mass transportation? Why were they hit so badly? There are lessons to be learned here. And luck is not one that we're just going to accept and move past. Because Florida didn't do what the ultra lockdown crowd said they had to do. And in a sense, Florida this way is kind of like Sweden. People were saying that when I say people, I mean the consensus view was that Sweden was heading for disaster. Disaster did not befall Sweden, even though Sweden did not do what the lockdown chorus was saying Sweden needs to do. So now we turn around and say, well, hold on a second. Sweden, okay, fine. Maybe that's far away. And I hear all these stories about how Sweden has like a particular culture and it's so different. Although, why did South Korea manage this without locking? Why did Japan manage without locking down its whole economy? Countries have done this without the lockdown. And everyone can claim now, which I see happening, oh, well, they're basically doing a lockdown. They're just not calling it that. Really? Because a couple of weeks ago, it was they're heading for disaster because they're not doing it. And then when people see results that don't fit with what their view was or what their advice was, all of a sudden what they said a week or two ago no longer matters. I don't like that. I don't accept that. Florida was supposed to be heading for disaster. I remember there was so much pressure. Oh, the governor needs to lock down the beaches. He didn't lock the beaches down fast enough. He's the mayor from Jaws, which I just rewatched recently. And there's a lot of COVID-19, great white shark theoretical crossover. When you watch Jaws, you'll say, oh, yeah, this is the economy versus saving lives. And there's some real it's a movie for our time. And it's such a great movie. I was just talking to Snow Princess and my mom about it over the weekend. It's such a great film. You know, it really holds up so well. It's in that sort of pantheon of just great cinema where it's not great because people tell you it is. It's great because you want to watch it 100 times and it's super entertaining and well done. So Florida was supposed to be at this really great risk. It didn't end up happening. Why? They don't have answers, and they don't want to find out the answers. They just want to tell you, lock down, shut up. We'll tell you when you can come outside. Remember, they didn't lock the beaches down fast enough, but it turns out that they were okay. Remember all the spring breakers that were getting all this abuse heaped on them? You know, people that were, high school, college-age spring break. If you're 18 to 22, your risk from this virus is almost zero. Now, you could say, Bach, but they're going to infect older people if they're around. We should work on separating young people who are 20 from older people who are at higher risk. Because herd immunity is happening one way or another. So controlling the spread within the herd is a better public policy, and that had been public health policy until now. But no one even wants to look at Florida as an example. They just want to find excuses for why it doesn't count somehow. Lockdowns must continue until we say they end. I'm not buying it. Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.